All righty, how are we doing, everybody? Welcome to the Paws Up Postgame Show. I am Jay Gibson, host of the Paws Up podcast, and this game is over. FIU falls to Penn State by a score of 34-0. It was a close game coming out of halftime, and then, the Nittany Lions pull away, but they do not cover. Regardless if you had the line at Penn State minus 42 and a hook or minus 41 and a hook, it does not matter. The Panthers still avoided the route. But yeah, this will be a pretty short post-game show. I don't think there's a whole lot to say here, but it is a tough game for the Panthers, all things considered. Defensively, I'm going to say that the FIU did a pretty good job today against one of the best teams in the nation. The last two touchdowns of the day for Penn State came off of turnovers. The second to last being a run right after a turnover on downs, and then the actual last touchdown was right after a strip sack. So I'm really only putting FIU's defense responsible for 20 points against Penn State today. And if that's the case, then good Lord, that was a great day for FIU's defense against the Nittany Lions offense. A lot of people had excuses in the first half. Okay, Drew Aller had a bad game. The weather was bad, blah, 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 blah. Listen, this is a Penn State team that believes they can compete for a natty, let alone a Big Ten title and all that. So I don't care what the Penn State people are going to say. I thought this was a bad game, all things considered, for Penn State, especially coming out of halftime. But now, did they get things together and adjust in the second half? Yes, they absolutely did, and they did a damn good job at that too. But I'm very impressed with FIU's defense. I mean, it gets me excited to see how this defense can even get better as we get to the Conference USA slate here coming up after a few weeks. But we got some comments here. Should have taken the field goal in the first. Yeah. I think Kevin also mentioned that he kind of understood why. A lot of people understood. Some people left some comments saying, okay, they get it. You want to have the tempo and do all that. But yeah, looking retrospect, I hate seeing FIU finish a game with a 0 as their score. To get shut out is very disappointing. Even with everything else that went on, it does kind of suck seeing them get shut out. But that's not to say FIU didn't have any scoring opportunities. They had plenty. They had enough opportunities to get maybe 6 points, 9 points, a touchdown here and there. They did more than enough to get close to scoring. Just they got a little greedy a few times in the first half. In the second half, it was a bit harder to come by, but still, yeah, just disappointed that the offense couldn't really muster up any points. Jenkins finishes 15 for 28, 127 yards, 1 interception. Jenkins did start to run a little bit in the second half, but unfortunately, pretty lukewarm game for him running the ball, which half of me is kind of okay with because you avoid a lot of big hits when you run, even when you slide, and you're still subjected to take some big hits from Penn State's defense, and he didn't really have that happen, so it's good. Looks like he's going to be healthy. Looks like he's going to be ready to go for next week against FAU, which is good to see. So from that perspective, it's kind of okay to see him not run as much as he probably will next week against a team that FAU realistically has a chance of beating, being, of course, Florida Atlantic. Passing wise, he looked okay, but there definitely weren't a whole lot of opportunities there in the passing game. So FIU today on offense lived and unfortunately died on the run. That was their the way they wanted to try to move the ball today. 39 attempts on the ground, 141 yards. Not too shabby. KJ, I think he might be my MVP of the game. Keyshawn Owens, 15 carries, 78 yards, 21-yard burst there. towards it, 5.2-yard average. I think that he was probably their best playmaker on offense today. He was reliable. Devontae Lyons and Anthony Carey had pretty decent games too, but KJ took the majority of snaps today, and I think overall he looks pretty good. And receiving-wise, again, not a whole lot of great opportunities against a Penn State secondary here today, but Ross Fournette finishes with 22 yards. JoJo Stone had a had one reception there too. Yeah, it's funny. They used Dallas Payne a few times in the first half, but they kind of didn't really use him in the second half to get some receptions. Hopefully everything's okay with him. I didn't see anything happen today regarding that. And let me just say this now. Like I said in the halftime show, I wanted there to be some positive takeaways from this game, along with a clean injury report. And if those two things were to happen, I'd consider this a successful day for FIU. And there were a lot of good takeaways for FIU today, especially on defense. And to my knowledge, no major injuries suffered by the Panthers today. So I'm going to consider this a moral victory, even though I don't really like moral victories that much because I prefer real victories that matter come time where you need wins to get into a bowl game, to get into a CUSA championship game, whatever the case may be. I like those a lot better than moral victories, but all things considered, I guess you can't ask too much when on the road in Happy Valley at Penn State. So, yeah, the big takeaway today was the defense and at times the running game for the offense. And that is in part to a pretty good job by the offensive line today to create holes for our backs to get through. I'm going to check here. I need to verify how many sacks Penn State's defense put up here. Only 2, which, again, not too bad. However, they did have that strip sack on Pizanski, which late in the game, which led to the final touchdown. Pizanski, kind of an unfortunate outing for him, but, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the game was already well out of reach by then, so I don't know. I think it was sense to take out Jenkins and put in Pizanski with those minutes to go, just to make sure, again, he doesn't get hurt. So with that said, yeah. FIU football updates. I love this account on social media. I like our chances versus UConn now. I like our chance. Well, I already liked our chances before this game against Florida Atlantic, but seeing what their defense can do against Penn State, I really want to see what they can do against FAU, which already did not look, their offense, of course, did not look very good against Maryland. We'll see how they look today against Florida A&M, but I hope they would look good today against the Rattlers, but you never know. So more on that later, I guess. But yeah, I like our chances against UConn. That's fair. UConn is a very good program that does well against power conference teams, kind of like how FIU looked good today against not just a power conference opponent, but one of the most highly regarded power conference opponents there are right now in the nation. The number 2 team in the country. But all things considered, did Penn State impress anybody today? No. I'm going to say this was a disappointing game for Penn State. Are they going to lose a bunch of spots because of it? Probably not. But they'll probably stay number 2, maybe fall to number 3 in case something happens later today. I don't know. But just taking my FIU bias aside here, nothing that Penn State did today would make me convinced that they're going to be a real factor in the college football playoff, let alone compete for a Big Ten title game. Aside from their very easy schedule that began with Nevada, FIU today, Villanova next week, and then you finally have to take on a real team in Oregon, or a team that's up to their caliber, so to say, being Oregon. Nothing from Penn State really made me go, damn, these guys can win a natty, even with all the talent they kept and their coach, James Franklin, and all that. Not super impressed by the Nittany Lions. FIU came in ready to play. Coach Simmons, to his credit, had the defense certainly ready to play, and defensive coordinator Javon Dewitt. They had them ready to play, and they came out swinging and gave Penn State everything they could handle in the first half. It just kind of fell through a little in the second half with the defense giving up more and more plays and the offense unavailable to do much. I think I saw a comment here on Instagram. Passing game this season looks worrying from Usmanba_10. I think he mentioned something after the Bethune-Cookman game. So how are you doing? But I'm not gonna say here and be I'm super worried about the passing game just yet, because I completely understand why they didn't do well, or not that they didn't do well. They didn't really try anything risque passing wise against Bethune-Cookman because they didn't have to. They were kicking their ass with the running game, and that was good enough. Good enough. And today you're going up against one of the, you're going up against the number 2 team in the nation. I need to see how this passing game does against a defense that's up to their standards, which we're going to find out next week against FAU. FAU's defense didn't look. They looked good again. It's kind of funny. FAU's defense looked good against Maryland for a while until, again, Maryland pulled away. Same thing for us. Our defense looked great against Penn State today, but Penn State kind of pulled away, and they had those 2, I'm going to say, lucky touchdowns coming off of turnovers from the offense. Brad Malik Beltran says, what do you think about the O-line? Great. I thought the offensive line played great today. Only allowed 2 sacks, created quite a few gaps for our running game, and kept Jenkins from being on the ground not as many times as probably a lot of people thought they would. But today was a good day for the offensive line. I know Julius Pierce, I think, was hit with a holding penalty. I think there were a couple of holding penalties on the offensive line today, which definitely set back the offense as well. I need to check how. Let me check here since you have me talking about this type of things, how both teams did penalty wise, because Penn State was clean in the first half, and then they only committed 1 penalty in the second half. I think that was also a hold. FIU with 4 penalties today, and I think 2 of them were holding penalty. That's interesting. It says Penn State only committed 1 penalty today, but I believe they had 2 kickoff out of bounds penalties as well. So I think they really committed 3 being special teams. Speaking of special teams, how did FIU do today? Can't really tell you. We didn't really get to see their kicker try anything today. But Trey Wilhoit looked good. I mean, all of his punts looked pretty good. So not much to really say there, unfortunately. I couldn't really get a feel for our special teams today. On 4th down, FIU went 3 of 5. Not too bad. Just look at the stats order. 290 yards on offense. Not too bad. 149 passing, 141 yards on the rush. So it's kind of interesting that despite how run heavy it felt like FIU's offense was today, they still end up with pretty even yardage between passing and running. It's a little interesting. 6 for 18 on 3rd down, not great. But like I said, 4th down, they were pretty good until they really had to be there at the end. So I'm trying to think of some other things to talk about here. If y'all have any questions, y'all have any opinions you want heard, just let me know. I mean, I tried to answer a couple of you guys on IG and Twitter and YouTube. So shout out you guys, for the coverage, or for tuning into our coverage, both myself and Kevin today, as the game went on. No joke. I actually thought about doing a live, basically a watch party for this game, but I thought, maybe our next road game against UConn would be a better time to do a watch party for, insight and thoughts as the game progresses, because obviously I think it's going to be a lot more even FIU versus UConn than FIU versus Penn State. But I'm getting ahead of ourselves here. And what would this say? An FAU loss makes this day 10 times better, lol. I'm going to say no. I actually want FAU to win today, because now FIU is going to be entering the Shula Bowl game hungry, looking for a bounce-back win, looking to get some points on the board. And I don't want Florida Atlantic to be like that as well, because if they somehow get embarrassed by FAMU, they're going to want to right their wrongs against FIU. So let them get an easy win over Florida A&M today, and we'll see who's the more hungry team on a Saturday, September the 13th. My money is going to be on the FIU Panthers, because they're going to be looking for that bounce-back win. So let's take a look at some other comments here. FIU should be proud. They played pretty good against the number 2 team in the country. I agree. I wish Jenkins would have run more. if the situation, like if this was an extremely close game and around the third or fourth quarter, yeah, I do wish Jenkins would have run more, but he didn't have to. And he's healthy, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So he's going to be good to go against Florida Atlantic. So if he needs to make those runs against FAU, by all means, go for it. This was supposed to be a 56-0 rout by the third. So all in all, at least they were competitive. Yeah, I agree. If you took FAU or if you took FIU plus 41 and a hook or 42 and a hook, because that's what it opened up as, then you're laughing right now. You know, that's some easy money on the Hard Rock Bet app. So we'll leave it there and we'll get you all out of here. So final score, Penn State 34, FIU zip. But all in all, a pretty nice day defensively for the Panthers. Offense needs to fix some things before they take on their next opponent. And ladies and gentlemen, the FIU faithful, I would like to welcome you all to FAU Hate Week. It's Hate Week for that college in Boca Raton that doesn't want to be even called FAU anymore because of how many people confuse the two schools. A little weak if you ask me, but hey, to each their own. As we welcome in the Owls from the land of not really that close to the beach and old people and disappointing subs, disappointing sandwich shops that they're known to have. And I'm trying to fire off some things here, but yeah, it's now FAU Hate Week, and we're just going to get you prepared for the Shula Bowl. September the 13th. It's going to be a fun night at Pitbull Stadium. Make it over there, Panther Nation, to that game. We need all the FIU fans you can pack. You saw the positives from Penn State today. Imagine what they can do against a significantly inferior opponent, being the FAU Owls. So let's make it happen. We're going to have our Paws Up preview for you the night before. As far as our guest goes, there are a few people that cover the Owls that we have in mind, though we'll let you know a bit closer to that game who we're going to get on to talk a bit about the Owls from their perspective. Hopefully not an 80-year-old person. Okay, I'm done. But yeah, Shula Bowl podcast, by the way. Me, Kevin Burrell, and Kevin Fielder all appreciate the insight and the love you guys have shown there. If you have been tuning in over at 5 Reasons, and we'll definitely have to do something big, right? It's the gosh darn Shula Bowl. Just thank goodness it's here at Pitbull Stadium. So pack the cage, as we will let you all know what to do on our Paws Up preview show as well. But I'm just saying this for FIU athletics at this point. Pack Pitbull Stadium for the Shula Bowl. It's going to be a fun game, and I do feel confident the Panthers can get the job done here. And a lot of that is going to be based on what I saw today against Penn State. So, alrighty then. The Nittany Lions win by a score of 34-0. Thank you all so much for the coverage for both myself as well as my co-host Kevin Burrell. And hopefully next week it'll be a lot better. But we'll guide you every step of the way, get you prepared for that Shula Bowl. So, till next time, Paws Up!